underscore CSS. But we're gonna email that out to you because, like, you know, it's hard to remember. Other than that, we're also looking for volunteers. So, like, if you're into that, want to join, it's gonna be like a really awesome time. And Leia is actually going to tell you about going and give you a testimony because she's going to do every single one.
So I said everything about this announcement. I've been to every single CSS course since the very beginning that people started organized the first one in Florida. It's always very interesting conference with actual technical talks, and I would definitely recommend going. And there are many interesting talks about many prominent figures in the CSS community: Sarah Swaydan, Sarah Breisner, many other people. I'm giving a talk as well, but you should go. It will be awesome.
I'm Matt Marquis, and I'm your speaker for tonight. And as such, you have to trust me and listen to everything I say. You should really consider attending CSS.
Thanks. Okay, now let's hear from Francisco.
Hey, just wanted to say thank you to the awesome organizers. And we have some things to really put lately. From the office.
And now to introduce your speaker for tonight, Matt Marquis, also known as Will 2. He is the chair of the Responsive Issues Community Group, a huge contributor to the business community, and is about to come out with a new book that is a part of a book apart called JavaScript for Web Designers. I'm excited about it. So should you.
I appreciate it.
So now, you'll get the mic.
Did you turn it on?
Yes. That slide you made is this slide. Hello.
We turn it up.
Yeah, I could be very bad. That's good. This is good. This is fun. Hello, everyone.
Is the other mic off?
So, I would like for us to begin with an exercise in relaxation. Those of you in the audience who know me know that I am the picture of wellness. Old Namaste Marquis, as we call me. So I'd like everybody to put their phones away and just take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you're so inclined, and just relax. We're no longer at work. There's nothing here to bother us any longer. We're relaxing. We're all unwinding, and we're ready to learn about. No, okay, this is a waiting escape for me, and this is my every single day. I don't actually remember how to relax. 90% of you at this time freaking out about the little red icons, and the remaining 10% of you are asleep with what I told you to close your eyes earlier. I stand up, broke out at that back table, and nobody was doing each other. I get it. I do. Events like this are the only thing that gets me out of meetings for a little while. And if I'm lucky, somewhere in between all these, I get to do a little bit of typing. I work at Boku, as you all know at this point. Back when they hired me, Boku was mostly a JavaScript engineering kind of shop. Angulars and Angular's and Reacts and what have you. They didn't specialize in responsive web design. That was a part of almost every project they worked on. Performance was always kind of a vague consideration. It was sort of a nice to have. It happened by accident. Now, I'm not putting Boku down because there was somebody here to catalog me. Boku was and is know who wrote the tests for JavaScript, the language in JavaScript. That is terrifying. I've been there for 2-ish years now. And before that, I worked at Billing Group. You probably are the next two. They are all performance all the time. They build incredibly fast websites. They're hired to build fast, accessible, responsive websites. That's their whole thing. That was my whole thing. So I rolled in the boat and full of myself. Like, okay, so this is cute, JavaScript stuff. Good news though, we make fast websites now. I am very good at this, so I trust there will be no objections. And of course, anybody would do it, but it eventually happened. That's my fault, and to a lesser extent, real talk. I sort of blame everybody here. See, I'm spoiled. I've got it pretty easy as a speaker. I mean, apart from the constant pants-riding terror. We're all relaxed in so much as any of us know how to anymore. We're all ready to be inspired to watch him talk and be full of fire and determination and ready to change the way we build things. Point is, I stand up here and I pound my fist on the table and I shout, we're going to make faster websites from now on. Fingers crossed, it's going to be like a break heart up in here. There's going to be cheering and thunderous applause and people throwing roses, and we're going to mean every single bit of it with bodies of our hearts. In a couple of days, though, we will go back to the ground. And it is going to do its damnedest to chip away at us. The pressure will be back. The meeting invites will be back. Nobody here is going to disagree that a faster website is a better website. Nobody will disagree about that either. But our priorities will change, because let's face it, they aren't ours to decide at the time. When we get back to work, it won't be about us, no matter how fired up we are now. That's how things played out at Marquis. I had changes to make, but everybody already had enough to worry about, not me strolling around nagging about fast websites. But me, no, very smart. I had a plan. I was going to send emails to people. Problem solved. Everything would be fine. We built fast websites forevermore. We were going to have not just emails, but meetings. And people would line up to attend my meetings in the middle of the day, interrupting lunch usually. It's fine. It's time for both of you to get on board the performance train. This is happening. This is definitely happening, and nobody showed up. So I filed issues on other people's projects. They were, I was sure, highly relevant in the midst of the workday. By the way, to performance, you monsters. Didn't really work. I filed angrier issues. Turns out that wasn't the key. It wasn't that I wasn't actively mad enough at them. These also got ignored somehow for some reason. And so there were the Omega meetings, the mandatory meetings. Everyone must attend, and I will just scream at you for half an hour. No, that did not work even if they showed up. And anyone who did show up, like, for some reason. This happened for months. I'll be honest, I made like no progress. And there was a couple of months there where it's like, what am I even doing here? What is my job here? I don't know React. Wasted my time. Looking back on it now, I know I never went anywhere. I was just adding to the noise. I was another email, another issue, another meeting invite on the inbox tire fire. Make the website fast. That's not helpful. Nobody knew where to start. Come and see me, and I'll teach you how to make the website fast. That's not helpful either. Everybody had enough work to do without going looking for or asking around. It wasn't a matter of the code itself. Dealing with 1,000 browsers across 100 devices, that part, in a relative sense, is pretty easy. We're all working on those solutions together. We're sharing what works and doesn't work. That's why we're here in the first place. Getting people to care about performance also wasn't that hard, if I'm being honest. You find your own reasons, if you haven't already. Whether it's about the pride you take in your craft, whether it's about empathizing with users you've never met and likely will never meet, or just being able to go home at the end of the day feeling like a job was well done, that you did your work for the day well. Whatever reasons you have for wanting to build faster websites, it's not wrong. We're going to talk a little bit about the reasons I care, and I hope that some of those resonate with you. If not, that's fine. Whatever reason it is, whether it's just about being a good engineer, that's great. So here's the plan. If I'm doing my job right as a speaker, you're going to walk out of here with a bunch of new tricks in your bags, and you're going to leave here full of determination. Those are the easy parts. The hard part is finding the tiny points of leverage to push back against the ground, against the emails, against the constant barrage of issues. The hard part is putting all of this stuff I'm about to show you to use in small, unobtrusive ways, and finding ways to involve your teammates so performance is something everybody owns. Nobody's the performance janitor, nobody's nagging. So here's how I did. Maybe it'll work for you. When we get back to work, we don't file issues we call no meetings. We're not going to pick any fights, and we're not going to give anybody a chance to stop us. I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting it the way I did, which was volunteering to redo our own website. And a couple of you have been there. Solidarity. I started this process the way any professional adult would, by talking trash about my previous employer on Twitter. Slack channels were also very powerful at this time. In my defense, I did this because talking trash was a long-standing tradition at Filament Group. To a lesser extent, I did this because I wanted to get the people around me at Roku kind of fired up about this. Like, I am publicly stating my and our name on this. Let's do a good job. But that's still just pressure for me. That's me making a big show of it. Deep down, if you can keep a secret, I didn't really care all that much about being Filament Group. I am intensely competitive. But honestly, making websites is my job. I'm not passionate about typing semicolons 8 hours a day, as scandalous as that is to say at any kind of tech meetup. What I do care about, and what I care deeply about, is building something that I can proud. The work itself, that's just a means to end. This is missing some context. That lovely flame birch shelving. I don't want to run the applause. Thank you. Good. That's good. Just a little bit. Once in a great while. That's fine. There are no shortage of business cases to be made for making more performance websites. I'm not going to make them here. You can find those very easy all over Twitter. No matter how strongly we feel about making a better web for its own sake, we do need to be ready to make those cases. It's easy to find. For me, it's about building something for real people. I don't get excited about frameworks or languages. I get excited about potential, about playing my part in building a more inclusive web. Or Angular, or React, or responsive web design, or hell, even front-end performance. At least any more than I care about using Hammer or using Saw. Interests me. It's the impact I can make with those tools. I care about making something that works well for someone who's only ever known the web by way of a 5-year-old Android device, because that's the device they have. That's the only web they know. This is something that might feel like they're being left behind a little bit more by the web every day. I want to build something better for them. I want them to be surprised when they find a website that works better than they expected. How often does that happen? Responsive web design helps me do that. Performance helps me do that. I don't care about them as a topic, as a standalone thing. I don't go home and read books, book after book on performance because I think it's interesting the way browsers handle this stuff. I do it because I can build something better for somebody. It's a lot of lofty talk around making websites. I mean, we type for a living. I used to say that all the time. Like, I just type for a living. It's fine. I'm not really good with computers, and that part's true. But nothing is ever neutral. Not technology, not the tiniest, least consequential seeming decisions that we make during the course of an average, boring workday. A full 21% of adults with under $20,000 in yearly income have access to a smartphone, but no broadband connection in their home. Likewise, for 18% of adults with a high school degree or less. I'm in that group. I'm a lucky fluke. Now, very few of us are likely to have built a job-seeking website, though a few of us might have. Maybe we did build the site the user visited the day before they lost their job, the one that drained their prepaid data plan down to nothing. Maybe it was something we felt we could justify. It was a site about art, so we could get away with huge high-resolution images for everyone. It was a shopping site, so we assumed they wouldn't want to do it from their phone. They'd go home to their desktop browser, but they definitely have. It was a site for games, which is a luxury, sure, but maybe they user gave their phone to their kid when they found out they lost their job to buy themselves a little peace and quiet to think about what to do next. The tiny decisions that we designers and developers make day to day, to use a technology, to use a framework, to support or not support a browser, to use a PNG or a JPEG, those give us a kind of power we might not be aware of. We have power over access, each and every one of us, in all of those tiny decisions we make that don't seem to have much. That's a kind of decision-making power that the people using the web don't have. This May of last year, I think now, operating users generated around 4,608 terabytes of data total across the entire internet. And that doesn't sound like a hell of a lot. But data in Opera Mini is heavily compressed, up to 90%. If that data were uncompressed, Opera Mini users would have viewed 29,696 terabytes. That is a lot. Not for nothing, we laugh off Opera as something nobody uses. But it isn't a matter of the user downloading and clicking on the wrong icon over and over again, day after day, when they should have known better. It's a matter of, it's about reclaiming some of that power that we've taken from them through those small decisions, some agency. Whether we realize that's what's happening or not. It's about giving users a voice in the way they experience the web, about how their data is used. It's about choice. But then we don't include Opera Mini on our list of supported browsers. Doesn't matter. The features aren't as good as Chrome anyway. Just switch to Chrome. Download Chrome really easy. iPhones are on scales. The user can't win. That's their time. It's not ours. It's their money they're spending on that data. It's not ours. It's not our decision to make for them. We put a lot of focus on delight as an industry. But even me, for all the browsing privilege I have, when I want to check the balance of my bank account or book a flight, being delighted is very, very low on my list of priorities. Finding out how much money I have in the world and getting my body to some other place, pretty high on the list of priorities. Those are the things I would like that website to do for me. I want to accomplish my task quickly, and I want to get on with my day. And regardless of browsing context, their circumstances, what it is the user came to the site to do in the first place, or how they access the web, I just don't want to make anybody miserable. I don't think that's such a lofty goal. If we're being honest, that seems pretty reasonable. A study performed by Ericsson early this year found that delays in loading a mobile website cause, on average, a 38% increase in heart rate and an increased stress level on par with watching a horror movie or answering math problems. I don't want to put somebody through that because of the decisions I made building a website. That's my reason. I hope some of that resonated with some of you, but honestly, it's okay if it didn't. There are a lot of reasons to care about this stuff. And again, none of them are wrong. I fell into this job. The same way I'm guessing a lot of you did too. But back in my early 20s, what motivated me to do this was me. I wanted something better. I'm in that group with a high school degree or less. I wasn't supposed to have this. I was never supposed to have a job on the desk, but I wanted it. I was going to take it. That didn't hold up because I was in my early 20s. That's a kind of anger-based motivation that works real well in your early 20s, but eventually sort of tapers off. For a while, I did this because it was my job. I did this because this is how I got paid, and that's how I paid the rent. It didn't matter. I had to do something 8 hours a day, so why not this? It still is just a job. Making websites is just a job. And it took me a little while to get here, but that's what I've decided this job means to me. I'm not going to tell you what to decide this job means to you. This might be worth considering. This next part, this is the easy part. We're going to walk through some of the techniques that I use to build more performant websites. There is going to be code. There will be code. There will be PHP. PHP works fine. I stress, PHP is good, and I will play it. I will. That's right. PHP is perfectly, I didn't say Java. PHP is okay. I said it. But listen, seriously, do not sweat the code too much. Don't sweat the copy anything down. This could basically be pseudocode. This is just to illustrate the process, how these things kind of play out. You don't need to use anything resembling what I have up here for the most part. What I want to do is point out some places where I had an opportunity to involve my team, to make this something that wasn't just my concern, but something everybody could kind of chip in on and help out with. The lion's share of performance work revolves around what's called the critical rendering path. The critical rendering path refers to the time and number of steps that the browser has to take to show the website to the user effectively. It's the time between making the initial request for the website and being able to actually render the screen. Even though the files themselves are usually pretty tiny, requests for external style sheets and JavaScript files can have a huge impact on the critical path, the time it takes for the website to actually appear. When we talk about performance, and especially the critical path, we think a lot about blocking requests. Those are assets that lengthen the critical path, meaning that the page can't even start to render until they've been fully transferred and parsed in some cases. Any style sheets that we included on markup, for the most part, will block no matter where they are. Chrome, I believe a patch landed like a couple of weeks ago where if you included a style sheet later on in the markup, it wouldn't block anything up at the top. But we'll kind of ignore that for a second. The same goes for any JavaScript files that we include in the head of the document, but not JavaScript files that fall after all of our markup. The page can potentially be rendered and those be fetched after the fact. The link element for style sheets uses a media attribute that you may hopefully recognize from responsive images. That would be nice. In a perfect world, we'd be able to use this to show the user only the style sheets that apply to their browsing context. But even if a style sheet doesn't apply, and it could never apply, it has to block the rendering of the page until that asset has been fully downloaded. There's a good reason for that. Media queries are designed to respond to changes in client contexts, window size, resolution, etc. If we didn't load a style sheet at all until the media query applied, we could end up with a flash of unstyled content whenever the user's context changed. But besides their window really fast, the styles might look in after the fact. Worse, if their connection dropped out while they were browsing, they'd be left with no styles at all in some situations. Not ideal. The good news is that some modern browsers, again, this is maybe a just Chrome thing, possibly Firefox, you're seeing on right now. They'll raise or lower the priority of a style sheet based on the presence of that attribute. Those deprioritized requests won't block the page rendering. They'll be fetched after the fact. In these browsers, the style sheets that are necessary to render the page right away will still block. The others are all loaded once the page has been displayed, but quickly enough that even if the user should resize the window because it's happening at the browser level, there's no lag. Unfortunately, that deprioritization only happens in a couple of browsers. Right? To load style sheets asynchronously for everyone, we need to use a little JavaScript. It's pretty easy. This basically just injects that link element into the head of the page after once the JavaScript kicks off. Of course, the shortest possible critical path, the fastest possible website, would involve loading all of our assets asynchronously, including our primary or our only style sheet. But a rendered website with those styles probably isn't much better than showing a split second of a blank browser window. Having all the styles snap in after the fact would be pretty jarring. It would be fast, but it would be very janky. The critical CSS approach allows us to shorten the critical path to its logical extreme by using a little bit of smoke and mirrors, a little jingling the keys to distract the user like a magician. It ends up giving us a website that appears fully rendered, even though it isn't. An initial request, when you first punch in a URL and hit return, can include up to 10 TCP packets, about 14 kilobytes, give or take, in the very first response, the first round trip from the server back to the browser. That's enough that the browser can punch the markup and figure out what external assets it needs to load. It doesn't include any of those external assets. Just the markup and potentially any styles that we were to inline in the head of the page. Critical CSS sneaks in only the styles that we need to make the top of the page appear rendered. I apologize in advance. Above the fold, so to speak. With this approach, we inline all of those above the foldish styles. I'll explain in a minute. And we end up delivering a visually complete page, just the top of a visually complete page, the only part the user can see, and as long as it takes to make that initial round trip from the server. It's instantaneous. As soon as you hit the button, our website is there. Any other style sheets are loaded asynchronously after the fact. And again, it happens quickly enough that even if the user should scroll really fast, they should be there if we're doing everything right. With critical CSS in play, the top of our pages would look something like this. We have a big block, a big nightmarish block, I know, of inline CSS right there in the HTML. Partying like it's 1999. Front page style. Followed by that node CSS script I showed you, which is also inlined here, so it doesn't block. We would then call that function with the path to each of our external style sheets, and they're all loaded asynchronously. That would be a nightmare to do by hand. That would be a maintenance disaster if we had to actually remember to copy CSS here or there, or know which styles are required to render that above the boldish content, and cherry pick them over to the page. This grunt task will render the page in headless browser. You give it a viewport size, so at your largest breakpoint, I think the default is 2,000 pixels vertical of the page. It will render the entire page and parse out just the styles that are necessary to do that and generate a file that contains all that CSS. I like to think that we came up with a pretty clever approach to this in terms of configuring the grunt file. Again, don't sweat this too much. Don't have to walk you through that too much. For any page that we wanted to enhance with critical CSS, the home page, any of the big landing pages, anything we got a ton of traffic for, we would add a configuration type for that page to the grunt file. That task would generate a file named for the page and drop it into a critical grunt. Because we were using Vagrant, our local dev environments match the way the site would be built on the server side. So we determine the current URL, whether it's local or remote, and we pass it directly to this task. The benefit of doing this is that these files are not generated on the server. You don't even have to think about how all that CSS gets parsed out. You don't have to remember to run a task, and we definitely don't have to commit any of those files. Because once we push a commit to generate the site on the server, this happens invisibly. Those files are created completely independent of us. Full disclosure, I can configure a grunt task with the okayest of them, not the best of them. But I don't know anything about deployment. I know nothing about Vagrant, apart from actual, hitchhiking. That part I'm more familiar with the technology. This was great that I couldn't do this. This gave me a meaningful issue to file. Help me accomplish this thing, this very weird, very specific thing. And since I'm sure you're curious about why we're generating CSS to put in the head of our HTML files, let me explain to you what this does. Now we have new build stuff. Very easy. Somebody else was involved. I got to say, hey, all you got to do is set up this Vagrant thing to do whatever. So when we push a button, the website goes, however that happens, and have it generate this one file. And surprise, the website will be very fast, I promise. From there, adding any sort of manual step in the process. Like once your critical CSS files are generated invisibly, dragging them over to the HTML file would have been doomed. Just saying, hey, please remember to do this thing, especially on your own company's website, is doomed to failure. Instead, we just made the website smarter about how those files are loaded, about how all of our style sheets are loaded. Instead of a plain old link to the style sheet on the head of the page the way we normally do, we generate all that markup using this tiny PHP function. So simple, so easy that I know it's awful. PHP is not terse necessarily, but again, no sweat. This is fine. We can just walk you through how it actually works. And this took all 10 minutes to put together, despite all of it. At the time the page is rendered, this function sees if there's a critical CSS file that matches the current page style. And then goes out and fetches the contents of that file, and then checks to make sure there's actually something in there, because Lord only knows with computers. Then it determines whether we've set a cookie saying that our critical CSS has already been loaded. This cookie serves as a very crude proxy for the state of the browser cache. If we've already loaded a page, and we've loaded the style sheet associated with the website, our primary style sheet, and we can skip all this. Just pull it out of the browser cache, and we'll get it even faster than if you have to go through any of this stuff. So this is an optimization for first style sheets from the server. This function drops the contents of the critical CSS file directly into the page's markup, and then it goes on to inject that load CSS function. The rest of our style sheets, it sets that cookie, so in subsequent views, none of this happens. It just uses a plain old link tag that's hard putting in there. I like PHP just fine, as previously established, but I am not great at it, which gave me another specification file. Not paid to a bunch of performance, but I'll explain it in a second. I asked Jen Schiffer to help me out with it. This one function didn't take us long to write together. It gave me an opportunity to explain again why I'm doing all this stuff. It gave me a chance to transfer some ownership and bring my concerns into somebody else's comfort zone instead of trying to force them into mine. Jen asked that I represent her contribution to this project visually using the Google image search results for cool lizards. Jen Schiffer. Once we have the page showing up as quickly as possible, using critical CSS, we can start looking for more specific points of failure. And believe it or not, web fonts are one of the biggest ones. Most browsers will wait about 3 seconds for a font to load before giving up and showing the fallback text, which in performance terms, 3 seconds is a lifetime. In WebKit-based browsers, up until, actually I can't say that. Safari, older Android, BlackBerry, they're still out there. We'll wait up to 30 seconds for type to load using a web font, showing nothing at all, just like this, before it gives up and renders the fallback text. The commit to fix this in WebKit landed about a month ago, but I don't think it should be anymore yet. I had to try it. That still doesn't help all of the many, many, many WebKit browsers that are out there already using this stuff, in particular Android. And 3 seconds is still a massive single point of failure for a website, no matter how quick it is otherwise. Font face is a pretty smart syntax. The fallback pattern is built in. So no matter what format a browser needs, we're really only looking at one request for each file, which is great. For a while, I advocated loading all of our type asynchronously, the way I wanted us to do with our style sheets using the critical CSS approach. That broke that. That meant we were pulling in asynchronously massive files with data URIs containing the fonts themselves, loading every potential font file for every user. And it did away with that blocking issue where the type would render. It was bigger and slower. That still kind of works. The issue isn't loading a font so much as applying them. If our style sheet calls for our page to use a font that isn't available at render time, then nothing shows up until that font is available. So instead of messing around with font face and potentially breaking that really smart loading pattern, the font event spec gives us a JavaScript API that tells us once those font files are fully loaded. We can then apply them to the page asynchronously. Since they're not being applied during the initial render, nothing blocks. This API is refreshingly simple. A couple lines of JavaScript say, once all these fonts are fully loaded, add this fonts ready class to the HTML element. And in our CSS, we qualify all of our web fonts using that class, and that is it. That's the whole thing. That does away with that problem for every browser out there. Now, potentially, if your site's kind of slow anyway, you might see your fallback time for a split second before the web fonts are loaded. Honestly, I consider that a feature. If everything should break down, if something shouldn't load at all, your users aren't looking at the right page. They're able to actually do what it is they came there to do. This took, in total, maybe 10 minutes to load up. This is something you can sneak into a project. This is something you can solo and share with the team and say, hey, I just did this, by the way. This is just how I have those loaded fonts. Use this on their stuff too. We took things a little bit further by, again, setting a cookie as our root proxy for the cache. And this is something I'm not going to get into service work and do with. Because I know that gives you some access to the cache, but I can't actually speak to this because I haven't tried service work. This is the same as we did with our critical CSS. This says, if you already have these font files in the cache, don't bother with any of our weird logic. Don't bother with JavaScript at all. Just pull them out of the cache. They're ready to go. So again, this is an optimization for the first page. That's decades brand new. I don't think it exists anywhere yet. I could be wrong. Promise Time came up with a great polygon. This is what we use in our food. As simple as that was to implement, asynchronous font loading an application is a surprisingly complex topic. New approaches are rolling out constantly, which is fine. I mean, what we have now works pretty well for us. It's a step better than plain old that font base. It means no user ends up with no type on the page. The approach I'm most excited about, and had I to do it all again, I'm not saying we can go back into working on Marquis.com because I still have the nightmares, but the approach I think I'm most excited about is called critical web fonts. Just like the name implies, it uses the same kind of smoke and mirrors as critical CSS does to progressively apply our fonts in a way that hides all of our machinations from the user as it goes along. Instead of showing our fallback fonts until we completely finish loading all of our font-based families and weights and styles, we load a subset of just the primary font, not bold, not italic, just the base font, subset it to just Roman characters, letters, numbers, some punctuation, in base style, base way. The full fonts are still loaded at more or less the same time. We don't hide any text for the user in any case, but this chips away at some of the time the user could potentially spend with those fallback fonts. And it reduces the way the page might kind of snap once those fonts are loaded in, because something a lot more similar has been loaded from the get-go. Again, showing the user a split second of unstyled text, not the end of the world. It's a hell of a lot better than stopping them completely, whatever it is they came to the page to do. But having all those fonts snapping after the fact is weird as a user. It's a bunch of stuff just moving around. Fine. Partially though, this approach is for me. I like my fonts, and I really, really like not compromising on stuff that I want to do, not for the sake of performance, not for the sake of accessibility. I want to find a better way. I want to make it work for everybody the way it's supposed to. This is a little close to that. For generating the subset of fonts, because I am a caveman when it comes to fonts, I use Font Squirrel. There are command line tools out there that do it. Andrew, I see you in the audience. I know you know how to do this better than I do. All that. Typekit, Google Fonts both give you options for doing this. It doesn't really have much overhead. Subsetting the fonts, because like how often do you go back and change a font subset midway through a project? For the most part, I know it's open sans. I know you use open sans. You just kind of drop it in there and leave it. It just sits there. I'm using open sans. Once we've generated those subsetted fonts, implementation is with the critical web fonts approach is almost identical to the previous implementation that we're using on Roku.com. You just do it twice. First load the subsetted fonts, then once everything else is there, apply a second class. It says, okay, now the full fonts are here. Apply this font family instead. And the CSS cascade takes care of overriding the previous one. Oh, skip that myself. We then follow that exact. Am I not? Am I good? Okay. I was mumbling because I got ahead of myself slides-wise. It's no good to hope nobody notices during a presentation that you're mumbling to yourself. I'm doing a great job. This is fine. After we've loaded the subsetted fonts, using the same approach we have on Roku.com now for all of our fonts, we do the exact same thing with our full-size font files and all their alternate weights and styles. This takes a little longer to snap in, but it's less jarring because we have something similar already there. CSS does everything else. We put two different classes onto the page. First, the subset class, and our fonts are qualified with that. Then the full font family class, and the cascade does everything else. So once the full fonts class has been applied to the HTML elements, it overrides the previous one, the subset. It's a little more overhead. It's a little trickier than the first approach that I showed you. I don't know that I'd go back and change what we have now. This is working pretty well. But I think if I had to do over again, I think probably on the next project, this is the approach I'm going to take. So once this is in, this is at most, if you're as lazy as I am, this is like an hour's worth of work. And we've just removed a massive single point of failure from the site. And whether it's you're doing that because it's like, no, I really want the user to just be able to do what it is that they're doing. Or whether it's that you want to be able to say, look, I can do better than the browser does on loading fonts. I have a better way of doing this. Either one's great. Okay. Yes, hi.
About what notes. Not sure if anybody is interested, but in the CSS working group, we've been discussing a property to do this to control how fonts are loaded. For the subset stuff, you would still have to do it manually, but if you control, like, do you see blank? Do you see the fallback text? How long does the browser wait? That kind of stuff.
I have seen some of that before. Drop it in here, but
I don't know when we discussed it for the first time last year, last May actually. So it must be in the spec now, but I don't know many details about it.
yeah, I haven't heard like whispers of implementation anymore. But yeah, that definitely is better than. I mean, the JavaScript API still use it. Gotta be able to have that control on this last week. So, many people saw this coming. I know you did. I know you did. In fact, is anybody like a member of the RICG? It's weird that you're not wearing your t-shirt literally every day like I do. Like an R2 character, but I have a tattoo. I like that. I like that commitment. Brace yourselves. I am going to detail how the illustrious chair of the Responsive Images Community Group, authors of the Responsive Images spec itself, implemented responsive images on Boku.com and use WordPress. That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing. It's just part of WordPress 1. When you use WordPress, you have responsive images, and you don't have to think about anything like that. And that's amazing to me, because I am so sick of thinking and talking about responsive images, and I know you're sick of hearing me. I'm still going to talk about it a little bit. There's a little bit more to the story. We did a little bit of tinkering with our syntax, and we did a little tinkering with our compression, which no big deal. We can default to WordPress, no crying, but bottom line, the tooling around responsive images is getting really, really good. It's becoming seamless. It's just how websites are built, and it's something that's kind of abstracted away to the CSS, which is where those concerns belong. We shouldn't be writing this in a markup. Something should be automated. Something should be generating this for us, along with all of our alternate image sizes and cuts and everything. It was a very messy topic not too long ago. I subjected people to hour-long talks about it, going over syntaxes and use cases, and many, many fights pitched with browser representatives and standards reps alike. It was a messy topic by design, because it was a very complicated problem. Change the way images are rendered on the web is a very big boat to rock, as it turns out. Complex problems can mean complex solutions. The RICG's goal was to give us options for delivering only the image sources that are most appropriate to that user at that time. Serving the same images to everyone means that a user on a small, low-resolution device is going to bear all the bandwidth costs of massive, high-resolution images, but see none of the benefit. A high-resolution image on a low-resolution screen looks like any other low-resolution image. It's just up to 4 times bigger. Thanks to people with sweet tattoos and anybody else who's been even loosely involved with the RICG, like they shipped in for the Indiegogo where we implemented it in Chrome, where they tweeted angrily at me from an A avatar account. That's fine. That's cool in its own way. Thanks to everybody who was involved with the RICG in any form. We have all these solutions now. As complex as they are a very, very messy topic. With WordPress, with AAA, with a bunch of CMSs like them, you don't have to think about it anymore. We solved that problem. That's done. The user uploads an image, and everything else takes place behind the scenes. All the custom generated from that one large source image that you upload, and all the markup gets turned out invisibly. That's it. That's the whole response. You can't even imagine how delighted I am to have like a 30-minute responsive images section in a talk on performance. It's been fierce. So after all we've done, all these bizarre cookie setting JavaScript weirdnesses, it is incredibly important that we don't consider our work to be just wholesale done. A few blocking requests or a giant uncompressed ping somewhere, and we are in trouble again. You can't rely on everybody who might never touch the website pinky swearing. They'll try and be careful about making it fast, even for us. Not everybody there is a developer. Some people are managing the books. Some people are just writing blog posts real quick about content strategy or design. They upload a giant image for trouble again. Who has unit tests? Oh, you kidding? No. Hands up proud, please, because now I'm scared for all of you. Okay, that's good. Everybody else see me after class. Unit testing, just in case, is a way of testing your JavaScript for regressions. You sit down and create a new feature. You start by writing a test for that feature, which unless something very strange has happened, that test will. Once you finish that feature, the test should pass. But then it kind of goes into the bank, your unit test list of tasks. So every time you're working on a new feature, you're not just running that one test for the new feature, you're running all the previous tests to make sure that nothing you do at that time should break anything you've done previously, nothing that's ever happened to me. This performance budget growth task works a lot like unit tests do. If you've gone over your budget, if the site is not as performant as you set it up to be at the outset, your build process fails. If and when this task fails, and it will for sure fail, I have failed my performance budget tasks in the past. You have to take a hard look. You have that new image or feature or carousel or mission critical flash intro that you add to the site. You have to try and make it smaller. You have to try and make it faster. Whatever your budgets are set up to do, you have to make it fall within that. You have to find a way to make that difference somewhere else on the site. This approach did not work for us. In order to run this test, a web page test, which is the website and API, webpagetest.org, it uses that to generate these results. To do that, you need the public-facing URL. So if we were to run this task locally while we were developing the website against a live URL, something to build locally wouldn't really do us any good if it went over. We tried to keep us from fixing whatever issue was going on the live site locally. So this was no good. We went with a completely external service, caliberapp.com. Full performance tests against the live site. It notifies us whenever we go over budget. It ensures that we're performance testing against actual content that's been uploaded to, which is huge for us. It looks out for potential server issues. If something has blinked out with the domain, if something's taking longer for whatever weird reason up in the cloud, it lets us know right away that the site's not as fast as it should be. Slack integration, which means it is not me manually running a performance test whenever I think to do so, and then charging around to people's desks, pulling their headphones off their head and demanding answers. This is no longer just my problem because it's in Slack and everyone would like to concentrate on their work. When something goes wrong, now it's everybody's problem. This is not to say I have silence about such issues. I have dropped the occasional, boy, that's weird, huh? There's no reason it should do that. Well, and then everybody's suddenly very attentive to whatever the performance issue is with the website, because it's not me saying you need to stop what you're doing, fix the image. It's just like, gosh, hey, developers, and then I walk away. So what did all of this get us? It got us a very fast website. I don't mind saying that one point, if you're wondering, is Google Analytics. Google is dinging us on Google's performance testing tool for Google's. I'm not mad. Could have been perfect. It's not. I'm not.
There's a way to hack that.
Is that true?
Yes.
Don't play with me. Proxy, because I tried to proxy and it sent from a future cache headers after proxy level. It didn't work.
I would pull it up.
That's my shit right there. It will be 100. You mark my words. You mark my words. Fast forward to me, like, missing my workshop at CSS comp, rocking back and forth at my desk like a madman, trying to get it up to 100. Anyway, I'm a lot of fun. The website has earned us some bragging rights. I don't mind saying, but that's not really important. These are the web page test scores. It's not important, but these are the web page test scores that are way faster than it's not important, though. It's a little important. It's a little bit important. Maybe it's to me. Little friendly competition never hurt anybody. The clock's ticking there. More than any of that, though, the underlying message. That we can build something that's faster than anybody expects. Something that works for everybody. That message resonated with the team in a way that it didn't before. It was just me complaining. Just me bothering people with meeting advice. This is something that everybody at Roku owns now. Some in small parts and some in larger ones. Everyone's concerned, though, and it's something that we want to make a part of our contribution to the direction the levy's headed in. I hope everybody, for whatever reason, feels that same way. I hope we all manage to beat back the tide a little bit, to find ways to sneak in those small decisions that, in aggregate, will guide the web towards something better, faster, and more inclusive.
You might use it for yourself.
Okay, no, we can destroy everything. Okay, I'm good. Yeah, that's good.
Any questions? Maybe we can pass the mic around
I knew you would.
for that. But hold it here because it's like.
Yes. Is there any async attribute plan for link elements, just like we have in script elements? Because that would simplify asynchronous coding of CSS quite a bit.
I've seen it thrown around. I mean, like the first thing I wrote was like, just put an attribute and fix it like scripts do. For some reason, we ended up getting the thing where you can drop into the markup later on way in advance of that. I remember like the discussion went in circles about that attribute. It seemed like there was something getting in the way of it. So they were like, yeah, just put it before the closed body tag, which is weird to me. So I got to go back in and see what's going on there. There was talk about that. There was talk about images that I think is actually kind of happening. Like a lazy load for images, so when you scroll down,
Oh, yeah, Jake Archibald suggested that, right?
that might actually gain some traction.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But for the link element, I don't know, it just kind of feels a lot. Which
Yeah.
maybe it's, you know,
I mean,
less data.
we have it on script, it makes sense that we should have it on link as well.
Yeah, there must have been some technical something that computers, we can say.
Well, they might come is next week, so maybe.
Pick some plates for me, so I can be there.
You're not gonna be there?
No, I can't.
Oh, man.
I'm out of the game. I'm like Rambo on the raft now. I left web statements behind until I get called in for one last job, container queries.
Okay, I'll try to fix it, people.
Yeah, I like that.
You know?
Anybody? Nope. Way over yonder.
Are there Gulp equivalents to those tools that you mentioned for Brent?
Yes. Yeah. That's an easy one. I've seen it for like gulp and broccoli and lean and Columbus and all the various. I don't know how many of them you might know, honestly. But I've seen them in the critical CSS task for sure for gulp and for broccoli. Not super for broccoli, but gulp, absolutely.
I'm Matt.
Yo.
I had a question about working groups and participation. Do you consider it as part of your job or a hobby on the side?
Oh gosh.
And how do you, depending on the answer, how do you make time for it or explain any time you're devoted to it?
This is a good one. I consider it a part-time job on the side where I'm constantly berated by my coworkers and nobody pays me. During the height of the responsive images stuff, it was nights and weekends, and it was not pleasant. And I have such a hard time saying to people I want to get into web standards. It's like gritted teeth, and I'm like, you should. You definitely should. But the whole objective was get some chip weight. Get enough of us in the game that it's you have to listen at this point. And there was no way to do that in a way that was terribly pleasant at the time because it was all paying price. But now there's some dedicated representation for designers and developers in a weird way, like the WICG stuff, Web Incubator, community group. There's the Extensible Web Manifesto is putting together meetups in various places, like little micro developer TPAC things. So Brian heard about that. I like to think we made enough noise that it was okay, we got to do something about streamlining this process. Maybe we bumped down some of the rough edges a little bit. It sucked. I don't mind saying it was not great, but it's less not great than it was. We're not a stellar example of the community groups model because we went full pirate radio and we just started publishing specs as a bunch of schmucks. probably not something I recommend, but the community groups are actually, they're becoming a lot more relevant than they were at the time we started the RICG. You know, like there's a little bit of provisioning for let's talk this over a community group first. Whereas before they were like, here's a WordPress module. So yeah, I hope that answers that to some extent.
And so they pretty good.
I just made the noise. I want to be clear on that point. Like, I'm super loud, and there were a bunch of very smart people who did the real work. Shout out to you, otherwise.
Yeah.
I accept questions on baking. Again, I'm really into baking lately. Lousy amateur boxing. Not good, but I'll coach you anyway.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, Matt. Does anyone have any announcements that they would like to share? Okay.
What kind of announcements?
Like, if I don't know, maybe you're looking for a job, maybe you have a job to offer.
We're hiring at Pearson Health. We work with hospitals on patient experience. Looking to hire 4 engineers by the soon. Fred and I work very well with some developers. Full stack, but we're happy to give people front end, back end.
Kind of the same thing he just said, except we're wellness. We work patient experience. Full stack web developers. I'm one of the members of our small team, and we're trying to grow our company. We're right down the road here, right on Wall Street. Happy to get off cars and chat with you after.
Anyone else? All right.
Alright, so we're going to be hanging out for a little while around here and drinking the drinks and eating the pizzas. So feel free to stay for a little bit. Otherwise, we'll see you next month. How's everything going?